Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone, show number 76 on the 2nd of April. 76? We're heading for show 80 soon. I have to have a special for that, or maybe we'll wait till show 100, I don't know. On this week's episode, we have an interview conducted by Dave the Happy Singer of Jamie Kilstein. Now, Jamie Kilstein is a radio host. He's currently touring Australia, but you'll find more about that real soon. That's followed by a report that I wrote for the Australian Skeptic magazine, The Skeptic, all about power balance wristbands and body tricks and that sort of thing. That'll be followed by The Think Tank, with Dr. Rachael taking control of the first section, and then Dave the Happy Singer stepping in once again to interview a good friend of ours, Jason Brown. Now, before we get on to the show, thanks again for those people writing in, telling us what you're doing while listening to the Skeptic Zone and I guess other podcasts. I got a great email from Matthew Francis, and he tells me, while he's listening to the Skeptic Zone and probably other podcasts, he gets dressed, he does cooking, washing dishes, shaving, hanging out clothes, doing housework, driving, walking, going to the toilet, cleaning his teeth, programming TV shows to record on his DVD recorder and sometimes his laptop. Basically, he says he's always listening to podcasts, unless he's in the shower, in bed, watching TV, reading, talking to someone, or on rare cases when it's not practical. Well, Matthew Francis, thank you so much for that email. It gave the whole team a laugh. Fantastic stuff. All right, now sit back, grab that martini, and listen to this week's Skeptic Zone.
Our next interview is conducted by Dave the Happy Singer of DaveTheHappySinger.com. He is talking to Jamie Kilstein. Jamie is a comedian, writer and radio host, a regular guest on Sirius Radio, and also hosts the internet talk radio show Citizen Radio, along with political columnist Alison Kilkenny. He is here currently touring for the Melbourne Comedy Festival, and you can find his official site at www.wearecitizenradio.com.
Hi, this is Dave the Happy Singer, and I'm in sunny Melbourne. It's the day after the Global Atheist Convention, and I'm delighted to be joined by Jamie Kilstein. Jamie's a stand-up comedian from New York, and together with his girlfriend Alison Kilkenny, the journalist, he co-hosts Citizen Radio at wearecitizenradio.com with fantastic interviews. And Jamie was I guess lucky is the word, to have a riotous 10-minute set in the last bracket of the convention, just before the friendly neighbourhood atheist Dan Barker and, of course, Richard Dawkins. So I guess the first question is, Jamie, what was it like to perform at the largest gathering of non-believers in history?
It was amazing. It was weird. I didn't think, and this is going to make me sound bigoted against atheists, but I'm not. I didn't think there'd be so many young people, and I don't know why that surprised me. I mean, I think a lot of people kind of have that stereotype of the aging curmudgeon who just kind of swings on their porch and yells at kids. That's not a stereotype. I think I just made that up. That's a new stereotype that I've invented for atheists. And it was great. There were just, all sorts of, everyone I saw, I was like, I would hang out with you. Like, they just seemed like my friends. And it was really, really neat and encouraging. I've been walking around, like you said, it's the day after. I had a couple dudes in their 60s when I was walking back from the gym. So yeah, these two old dudes walking by who were, I would say 65 maybe. They were just like, Jamie, rock on, atheist convention. And I'm like, that is the coolest thing ever. So it was just so cool to see this really wide demographic supporting science and supporting education and human rights and all that stuff. And yeah, it was so inappropriate for me to go before Dawkins but I already got an incredibly sweet email from AC, and P.Z. Myers wrote about me on his blog this morning, which is like so flattering. And then we got to interview Peter Singer last night after the convention for Citizen Radio, which will be up on Saturday, and we talked about like everything from like animal rights to end of life care and abortion and atheism, and I mean, I just instantly felt comfortable, and I never like to talk about business because I'm bad at it, and like I used to be very poor and like lived out of my car and very cliche starving artist, but I brought like a couple boxes of CDs to sell at the festival because I'm here in Melbourne for like 4 weeks. I literally sold out of my month's supply of CDs in like 20 minutes at the convention, and it was amazing because they didn't set up a table for me or anything. Like I was the total like kind of on my own, where since no one really knows me, they kind of knew that they were doing me a favor almost, and like I was just really excited to do it. So I flew in at like 5 a.m, walked to the convention, didn't even have cab fare. Like I trekked down to the convention, did my spot. It went really well, and then I didn't even have a table to set up. So what I did was I made this little like guerrilla setup right by the Dawkins signing. So people were signing up next to Dawkins, and I hijacked Catherine's table and like just pushed a little corner aside and like just put my like raggedy ass box of CDs with like duct tape still hanging off the side. I didn't even have a pen. I signed someone's Bible, which was really cool. He was having everyone sign it. He said one person didn't sign it, and I want to find out who it is. But I just wrote really big letters. I just wrote, "This is not true," and then I signed my name. So yeah, those I think were my highlights, and it was awesome. It was great. Dan Barker, too, I got to sit next to him and watch Dawkins, and he was really nice. I didn't know he's also a jazz musician, so he's like, "I want to put your stuff to music," and I'm just like, yes, 1,000 yeses. So yeah, that's really, I think, did I cover? That's, yeah.
So yeah, you mentioned in your show as well that your background is Jewish. So what was your path to atheism? Were you always an atheist, or did you become an atheist? Is your family observant? Or?
Oh, this will be nice and embarrassing. Yeah. So here's what I did. I did the university stoner thing, which was I was spiritual but not religious, is what I said, because that's what you're supposed to say. And I guess looking back on it, I've never really talked about this. Looking back on it, I believed in God when I was a kid. My family's religious but not like church going. So like my mom is a Christian, doesn't go to church. My dad was a Jew, didn't go to synagogue, but like we did Christmas and Hanukkah because presents, and and read from the books, I guess, and stuff, but we never really, Christmas was never about Jesus, it was about us, so I never really had a reason to question it, because I was like, I get to hang out with my family and open presents. Some presents are awesome, right? So, which, by the way, we should look into getting a holiday. Do you know how many people would finally make the switch if, like, we just had some, like, awesome holiday?
How about Darwin Day?
Darwin Day, yeah. See, you need presents. We're a very selfish culture, and God help you if you buy people's science books. Oh, the holiday will be over. But yeah, candy or something. I mean, Halloween, Jesus, that doesn't make any sense. But people are like candy, so we'll just like we'll hand out stuff. I think we should hand out books, but we're probably more likely to get people if we handed out like weed or something. Anyway, I don't even smoke pot. What am I doing? Here's my thing. I know what I'm doing. I'm avoiding telling the question about how I believed in God. Okay, here we go. So I didn't really think about it, but I remember when I was a really little kid. You know how every kid has like that one like deep question where they're just like, I'm a genius, because it's just that deep question that like anytime you meet a girl, you like pose it to them and you're like, this is gonna blow their mind. So my deep question was, I was like, and remember, I didn't go to church, so I never really had experience with organized religion, but I was like, if Christians believe so feverishly that they're right, and they know they're right. I mean, they know it. They just say for 100% they know it. But then you have like a Muslim or a Jewish person who knows it with just as much certainty. They can't both be right. And I think that's something that a lot of people realize. And I remember when I was like a kid, my first little joke is I was like, I mean, there could be like some island culture and they worship whatever, like a tree or a mirror, and they think that, you know, they're just as certain as we are with our Bibles or with the Quran or whatever. And most people are wrong. The majority, I mean, there's only one group that can technically be right, in theory, right? And so that's when I was like, it's so bizarre to see people giving their whole life while everyone else they meet they think is wrong, you know? So I kind of just started disowning organized religion, but I didn't really know about it. But I always believed in God, just in case, like as this like fall guy, because why not? I thought, you know what I mean? Because like, you know, I didn't really know about science. I was failing out of school. I just didn't think of any of the cons, because I didn't have cons, because I didn't have to go to church, which I would see as a con. I didn't really worry about hell. I believed in heaven because I thought heaven sounded cool, but I didn't believe in hell because I thought hell. So I was like, it's probably just heaven. You know what I mean? Just already like cherry picking. I'm rationalizing, and so I just thought, why not? I was like, because if I'm wrong, if I say there's no God, and if I'm wrong, I'm going to burn in hell, and if I'm right, I'll get to like see my dead cat or whatever they say you do in heaven, and that sounded cool to me. So it just gives you this ultimate out. You know, that's why I think most of the secular nations are the most charitable, because they know it's up to us and they don't pawn off their responsibility. And so anyway, so I did that, and I was straight up selfish, and then I met Allison, my girlfriend. And it was so funny. I was, at this point, you know, I started becoming anti-religious, like against organized religion, once I started talking about politics and stand-up. So Allison and I drove around the country and lived out of the car for 2 years. And in that time, I met gay friends. I met, you know, so many more people than I met when I was living, like, you know, when I was squatting, essentially, in New York. I didn't really get a chance to meet anybody but comedians. And so I actually got to meet real people and, you know, talk to gay kids who were afraid to come out to their parents because they were religious, and, you know, met gay kids in, like, Utah and Mormon Utah, and I was like, I need to talk about this. So that's when I became really, like, anti-church. And I started talking about that, but it was so funny because I was anti-church and I was talking about gay rights, but I still believed in God, again, just in case, because you go, well, you know, at that point I didn't read the Bible, and I'm like, well, God doesn't want this. These people are just, you know, sullying his name. And then of course you read the Bible and you're like, oh, he does want that. And so I meet Allison, and at this point I'm like 23. I'm an adult, right? I'm against religion, and I guess I would call myself an agnostic, because that's just an easy. By the way, someone on, I think Triple J, I was doing the show and they asked me if I get mad at agnostics, and I kind of thought about it, and for the first time I'm like, I love what Dawkins says about how technically we're all agnostics, because if God crashed down during this interview, like, we wouldn't be like, you don't exist, I've read Hitchens, like, we'd be like, damn it. So I do like that, but at the same time, I love owning the word atheist, because I feel like, you know, they organize so hardcore, and they, you know, organized essentially to take rights away from people. So I do think it's kind of up to us to take a stand back. So my new thoughts on the whole agnostic thing is, it's like, pick a side and start losing friends like the rest of us. You know what I mean? Like, if I get to be ostracized at every party I go to, you get to be ostracized. Man up. So anyway, so I meet Allison, and I go, we start talking about religion, because for some reason that's what I do on a first date. And I was like, yeah, I'm agnostic. And before she said agnostic, I go, I'm assuming you are too. I'm like, you're not an atheist, right? And I said it with like that contempt. And this was really like 5 years ago. And she's like, yeah. And suddenly, you know, at this point, I thought I was like an intellectual, because I occasionally read. And, you know, I was very progressive and left-wing. And suddenly my girlfriend says she's an atheist. And I either said this, would have to ask her, I either said this or almost said it, where I said, but you might go to hell. And then I'm like, I don't even believe in that. But you're so brainwashed into hearing that atheist is the worst thing possible. At that point, I didn't know anyone who came out as an atheist. I didn't know about any of these charities. I certainly didn't know who Richard Dawkins was. I didn't know that any of this stuff existed. And And that was just something that Allison and I disagreed on for about a year or two. So what ended up happening is we go on the road, right? And you know how most people have their, like, they come back to God either when they're in jail and they're like, that's like their ace. They're like, this is all I got left, you know? Like, hopefully God will help me. Either they're in jail or they're like, you know, drunk and vomiting in a gutter, and they're like, oh, I won't do this again, just please. Or they see something in nature, right? They're like, oh, it's a tree with flowers. Jesus is real, and it's like, what? Like, who is the waterfall, the 3 waterfall guy?
Oh, was that
It was that guy,
that Francis Collins?
Yeah, the human genome. Yeah. So they have that experience. I actually had the opposite experience. And Allison and I go to Niagara Falls, and it's beautiful. And I said something to Allison where I'm like, see, like, look, you know I hate religion, but how would this exist? I mean, look at something like this. Like, how would it exist if there wasn't a God? And she told me how it happened. Like, she was like, well, here's how it happened. And I was like, oh, incredible. And she's like, yeah, totally. And that was it. And then suddenly we're on the road, right? And now, so I dropped out of high school, right? And I read books because I like to, not because I like learning fancy words to make myself look cool. Okay, so anyway, so we go on the road, and suddenly I am like an 8-year-old because I never asked questions. You just assume everything was put here. So suddenly I'm asking Allison, I'm like, how are mountains made? And like, when we saw a mountain, and she would like tell me, and I'm just like, what about that lake? And like, she'd tell me, and like, I became a kid. And it was the exact opposite path where suddenly I became so much happier and more intellectually curious because I was like, these things were somehow created. Now, we don't know how all of it was created, but let's find out. And so that was so much more exciting to me. And then once I finally like took, you know, ownership of it and heard some of like those amazing speakers from this weekend, once I started reading them and finding out how important it was to just kind of own it and celebrate it. And, you know, again, I used to do the soulmate thing, which I briefly talked about on stage yesterday, but I talk about it a little more in my set. But I used to do that where I thought it was fate or it was destiny, and now I'm like, man, like, you guys found each other. Like, that is so much cooler to me, and that is so much more romantic. Or if you get into a really good school and you say it was God, it's like, what about all those teachers that busted their ass? What about your parents and your siblings who stood by you and helped you study? Like, man, give them credit. I know alcoholics and drug addicts because I'm in the comedy business. And, you know, the whole thing with AA and NA is you have to have a higher power. And it's so interesting to me where when they have this higher power, if they are sober, they don't thank themselves. They go, it was my higher power. And I remember when I quit smoking and when I quit drinking, the main thing that got me through was, and you know, I'm a really modest kind of self-hating guy, but the thing that got me through was just being proud of myself. Like, me and Allison quit together, and anytime I wanted to go back and I was tempted to kind of relapse, she would be like, you know, how hard did you work? It's been like 2 weeks. Do you really want to repeat that? And I'm like, no, you know what? I did work really hard, and I did do it, and I know if I keep doing it, it's going to get better. And it got better. But if I didn't take that ownership, and if I was like, it was God, or it was my higher power, then I would have been like, oh, well, if it was God, then I'll just postpone it. You know what I mean? Like, I'll just rain check it and do it next week. Conversely, lots of people who relapse, instead of being like, I need to change my game plan because this isn't working, they'll be like, well, God has another plan for me. Or I know someone who relapsed and they met a really good friend at rehab. And so he goes, you know, if I didn't relapse, I wouldn't have met that person. And now you're justifying it. Now you're saying it's good. So now the next time you want to relapse, you can be like, well, look what happened last time. I met Sally. And you can just start, as opposed to being like, that sucks, I have to start again, I'm going to work harder, me, I'm hurting the people around me, etc. So I just found that ever since I started living life for myself and the people that I care about, which has been infinitely more fulfilling, and I know where mountains came from.
Now, this is only a part of what Dave the Happy Singer recorded. You can find the rest of the interview at the podcast of the Sydney Atheists at www.sydneyatheists.org.
This is Eugenie Scott, National Center for Science Education. You can find us at www.ncsc.com. Come see us if you want to know anything about the creationism and evolution conflict in the United States, or more's the pity internationally these days. We are a clearinghouse for information on this vexing but certainly very interesting problem. Come and find out more about it.
A matter of balance. Now, this is a report from the most recent issue of The Skeptic magazine from Australian Skeptics, Volume 30, Number 1, for March 2010. In November 2009, a group of Australian skeptics and friends headed for the Festival of Mind, Body, Spirit in Sydney. An overview of this adventure can be seen in previous issues of The Skeptic. Over the years, I've come to expect the unexpected at these events. Although much of what is on show is old hat, sometimes something stands out for one reason or another. This time, it was the stand of a company called Fusion XL. Their website is http://fusionxl.com. Now, they sell a nice-looking pendant to wear around the neck. According to the company's website, Quantum Pendant is made from natural materials that are fused and structurally bonded together at a molecular level. It produces scalar energy that helps to enhance the body's biofield. More red flags in a red flag factory. Putting aside the nonsense about scalar energy and the body's biofield, just what is Fusion XL selling? In other words, what is the hook that would convince someone to part with $266 for a black pendant about the size of a poker chip? The answer is something that's been bobbing around since the 1970s and probably even longer. Body balance and flexibility tricks. These tricks consist of testing one's balance by applying a slight downward force on the extended arm. The subject, who is standing on one foot, normally tips off balance as the force is directed slightly away from the body and hence the center of gravity. Now, the same test is done again, only this time the subject is given the pendant, or as we'll soon see, the holograph. As if by magic, the subject not only doesn't tip over, it seems they are anchored with an amazing new sense of balance. No matter how hard the force is applied, the subject remains upright. How is this stunning feat achieved? As you may have guessed, it's nothing to do with the pendant, which is only a prop. It's all to do with how the force is applied to the extended arm. And this time, the force is downward and very much towards the body and the center of gravity. However, the casual observer usually doesn't notice this change in the direction of the force, and so the trick carries quite an impact. So subtle is the technique that even the subject of the test is unaware of the difference and is easily convinced they have suddenly acquired a new sense of balance. Other similar tests use the same principle of directing force away from and then towards the body and the center of gravity. To cap off the demonstration, the subject is asked to swing their arm slowly back around the body as far as it'll go. Once the pendant is introduced, the subject finds, to their amazement, that their arm swings even further. Again, it's not the pendant, it's just the body flexing and reflexing. But the effect can seem astonishing. Now, this is all very well and fine, and something skeptics around the world have seen for many years. What made the quantum pendant stand out were the supplementary claims given by Fusion XL representatives. The pendant could also turn tap water into sunblock. Yes, it might take a moment for the gravity of this claim to sink in. A plastic pendant made from lava is placed under a bottle of tap water for 15 minutes, and it gives that water the power of a sunblock if rubbed on the skin. Indeed, one of the representatives told us she used it on her grandchildren, as she does not trust the chemicals in real sunblock. Needless to say, I and the other skeptics were somewhat dumbstruck at this claim, but not for long. I allowed myself the luxury of lecturing these people and demanding they stop making this outrageous and totally irresponsible claim. Australian skeptics are now considering our next step, as this claim ranks amongst the worst we have encountered. A search of videos on YouTube showed more of Fusion XL in the body tests. Once you know the tricks, it's relatively easy to spot what's going on. Little did I know that this extra research would come in very handy in a matter of weeks. In December 2009, Today Tonight, a current affairs show on Channel 7 here in Australia, ran a story from Adelaide on the amazing results achieved by using the Power Balance wristband at only $60 with embedded hologram. To quote from their website, "How does it work? Most everything has a frequency inherent to it. Some frequencies react positively with your body and others negatively. When the hologram comes in contact with your body's energy field, it allows your body to interact with the natural, beneficial frequency stored within the hologram. This results in improved energy flow throughout your body." What really caught my attention upon watching the story on Today Tonight was that the Power Balance used exactly the same tests as Fusion XL, only this time it was the hologram in the wristband that gave one the power. I wrote to Today Tonight offering my services in any following-up story, but as luck would have it, they contacted me via Skeptic Laurie Eddy in Adelaide. After a chat with the reporter, Frank Pangello, it was agreed that I be flown to Adelaide to test the Power Balance on behalf of Australian skeptics. Also flown in was Tom O'Dowd, who has the Australian rights for the Power Balance bracelet. The Adelaide tests were as simple as I could make them. We had 6 volunteers line up, with only one, chosen by the roll of a dice, having the hologram hidden about their person. Tom was unaware as to who had the hologram, as was I, and his task was to use the body tests to find out. If the hologram performed as claimed, this should have been a walk in the park. Unfortunately for Tom, he did not pick the right person on any of the 5 tests we performed. At every step, and this point cannot be overstated, Tom was asked if he was happy with the conditions. Tom reported his approval. I found Tom O'Dowd to be friendly and very keen to show me how well Power Balance worked. I have no doubt that he really does believe the product works, even though it failed a very simple test. Why? We look to water diviners for the answer. Australian skeptics have been testing the claims of water diviners since James Randi travelled here 30 years ago. What is well known to us is something called the ideomotor action, or effect. This, simply put, is the phenomenon of the body fooling the owner. When a diviner's rods move, the diviner is unaware that they are tilting their own hands. When proponents of something like Power Balance are demonstrating the product, they too are unaware of the subtle change they apply to their subject to make them tip or not. Sound far-fetched? The ideomotor action is well documented and very powerful. It is also possible to misuse these body tests or tricks once you know what you're doing. On a recent trip to the USA, I was able to give amazing demonstrations to total strangers of the incredible power of the pendant I now carry. The pendant is made from ceramics with the words "Science Saves Lives" written on it. To read this report and see the accompanying videos, visit www.skeptics.com.au and type the word balance into the search field.
You're listening to The Skeptic Zone. I'm Brian Dunning from Skeptoid.com.
Join us now for Drinking Skeptically in the Think Tank.
We're going to record the Think Tank now, is that okay?
The think tank?
Yes.
What's the think tank?
All right. Here we are at Sydney Skeptics in the Pub. I'm Dr. Rachael, and we are celebrating the victory of Simon Singh's appeal. Cheers to Simon.
Sing.
And I'm here with Jason Brown, Drunken Madman.
Hello.
At happysinger.com.
DaveTheHappySinger.com.
DaveTheHappySinger.com. And you are, sir, introduce yourself.
I'll be Brainache from the JREF Forum. Thank you very much.
And at Bastard Sheep is also here.
G'day everyone,
And I don't know you, young man.
I'm Jamie, from nothing in particular.
Okay.
Canada. Jamie from Canada.
And Tim, loyal follower of Skeptics.
Whee!
Now, can you give us a little bit of a rundown, Dave, about what just happened about half an hour ago?
Well, like a Scientology rundown.
Where's the vitamins?
As I understand it, live while we're at Sydney Skeptics in the pub. We're in the pub. It's about 9 or 10 in the morning in the UK, and it's mid-evening in Sydney, and we're all out drinking. And before our speaker Tim Mendham started speaking tonight, we knew that the decision by was it a triumvirate of judges there?
It was.
Good word, very good word.
Yeah, it's an excellent word, isn't it? A triumvirate. You always learn things in my lectures. A triumvirate of judges have just passed down their decision. We were expecting this decision this morning. Everyone in the UK was gathering at the courts, and we were gathering at Skeptics in the pub, all frantically refreshing the hashtag #SingBCA, because these judges were going to be handing down their decision on Simon Singh's appeal about the meaning of the word bogus in his libel case. And if you've been listening to The Zone, then you'll kind of understand the background of this, but basically Simon Singh said that certain chiropractic practices were bogus. They sued, claiming that the word bogus meant a deliberate intent to deceive. The judge agreed with them. Simon asked to appeal. He was granted the right to appeal, and 3 judges have now said, of course bogus doesn't mean what the BCA think it means. Simon's appeal has been successful, and I think, and I'm not a lawyer, the best thing you can do is follow Jack of Kent if you want to know anything about that. He's the best blogger in the world on this. Go to Jack of Kent's blog and follow Jack of Kent on Twitter. But as far as I understand, the upshot is that he's not won the case, but the BCA don't have a leg to stand on. Their case is basically evaporated in this decision today. So it's good news. It's a cause to celebrate. I might be wrong, but I think that's
TLDR, we win.
TLDR,
Simon's about to win. Yay!
Well, there's also, I've just been handed a statement from the BCA by Bastard Sheep, which was published, I guess, just moments ago. The statement from the British Chiropractic Association regarding the BCA versus Simon Singh. Commenting on the Court of Appeal ruling allowing the appeal by Simon Singh, Richard Brown, president of the BCA, said, quote, "The case against Dr. Singh has always been simply to set the record straight and correct what the BCA considered were libelous comments by Simon Singh in The Guardian. Originally, we asked Dr. Singh for a retraction and an apology, and he declined. The Guardian subsequently offered a right of reply, but this fell short of our expectations, not least of which because the original libel would have remained uncorrected. Having reached stalemate and feeling our reputation had been tarnished, we sought legal advice, which unambiguously indicated that in order to get an appropriate apology and retraction, a writ need to be served. The same advice was that this was best achieved by directing the action against the author rather than the newspaper. The BCA has followed its legal advice throughout this case. The motivation for this action was always to clear our good name, particularly in respect of the implication that we acted dishonestly. It was never, and it is still not our intention to curb freedom of speech, whether in the field of scientific research or elsewhere. Although sadly we recognise that this is how it has been portrayed by Simon Singh and his supporters." And it goes on. You can find that probably on the BCA website, but I disagree that it was their intention not to silence free speech. What do you guys think about that?
Well,
I hope you don't publish this in Britain, because they might come after you for libel now as well.
It doesn't matter. Even if we publish it in Sydney, they'll go to Britain and sue me. That's the problem with the libel tourism, that people are going to Britain to sue because the libel laws are so screwed up in Britain.
I thought it was only if things were published in Britain.
I'm not convinced. I don't think that's the case at all.
Is published in Britain?
Yeah.
Okay.
The internet is published in Britain.
And if you write a book in Australia and you can access it in Britain, you can be sued in the British courts.
So if you had a magazine that was published in America but sold in Britain,
you can still be sued for libel. Yes.
And a website that's accessible from Britain is the same thing.
Yes.
And so anything that a person reads in Britain is assumed to be published in Britain?
Yeah, because someone in Britain is reading it. So obviously it's been published there. Otherwise, someone in Britain couldn't possibly be reading it.
All right.
How could that happen in this great empire of ours?
Of course.
We should probably point out that I don't think we've got any legal minds amongst us whatsoever. I'd just like to reiterate the recommendation that you go to Jack of Kent, because Jack of Kent tends to know what he's talking about, whereas I'm just a comedy musician. You shouldn't listen to anything I say ever. The entire root of skepticism is that you shouldn't listen to Dave the Happy Singer, but by the same token, you shouldn't listen to the British Chiropractic Association or Jenny McCarthy.
Good work. Yes.
Can we expand that list of people you shouldn't listen to?
Yes.
That could take a long time to get through.
Yes. It could, so let's just leave it at that.
May I nominate Joseph Ratzinger for a start?
We can do it chronologically or in alphabetical order.
It's going to take a long time either way.
Right, well, let's just finish off by saying congratulations to Simon Singh.
Yes, we love you, Simon.
And we're looking forward to seeing Simon at TAM Australia. Yay! In November. So, cheers to Simon, everyone. Woo! So whilst at Skeptics in the Pub, Dave the Happy Singer took the opportunity to talk to Jason Brown, also known as @DrunkenMadman on Twitter, about his new website called The Skepticator. Skepticator is an aggregator for skeptical content and can be found at skepticator.com. You can also follow The Skepticator on Twitter @The Skepticator. So here's Dave talking to Jason Brown.
So, this is Dave the Happy Singer. At Skeptics in the Pub, you can visit me at davethehappysinger.com, and we're fortunate tonight to be joined by the drunken madman himself, Jason Brown.
Good evening.
And Jason, as some of you know, but more of you should know, has launched Skepticator.com. Jason, tell us what Skepticator is.
Well, Dave, I'm glad you asked me that. That's a very good question. Skepticator.com is it's the central source for all skeptical information from blogs.
Wow, that's a big claim.
It is a very big claim. It's an extremely big claim. Slight bit of hyperbole there, perhaps, but eventually it will become the preeminent information source.
What is Skepticator and how does it work?
Skepticator is an RSS aggregator and a Twitter aggregator.
A what?
It's such a difficult word, isn't it? Aggregator.
It is. What does it mean?
It means that basically Skepticator goes out to all of the skeptical blogs that it knows about, finds all of their articles, brings them together in one place where any skeptical person can come and find them.
So this is all the skeptical happenings as it happens?
As it happens, yes. Updated every 15 minutes. It gives you pretty much all of the very prominent skeptical blogs are already on there. There's a few more that I need to pick up over time, but every 15 minutes it updates and you get the very latest news and opinions from the skeptical community.
So what else can you do with Skepticator?
With Skepticator, well, obviously you can add your own blog to Skepticator, but also you can use it to tweet to your Twitter followers and tell them about new stuff, so it leverages the old social web there. It's quite nice in that way. There'll be some updates coming in to make it easier to go onto Facebook and stumble upon, and Reddit and various other sources. But also it's got a very nice search capability, where you can search in a very kind of a rich, content-oriented kind of a way. And, if you want to find out what someone wants to say about, let's say, the Simon Singh decision, you simply type Simon Singh into the search on Skepticator, and it will give you a very nice little return of all the blog articles that have been written about Simon Singh's case.
I think I've used Skepticator, and the thing that I found most exciting was the search, because if you just put in, there's big stories going on at the moment with the Pope and the Australian Vaccination Network, and obviously Simon Singh tonight is the big breaking news story. You type those into Google and you're going to get a lot of skeptical stuff, a lot of mainstream media stuff, but also a lot of...
You get a lot of woo if you go to a general
woo if you use a general search engine. The nice thing I find about Skepticator is quite uniquely I found that if you use Skepticator to search for a particular topic, you can get all the blog posts that you're interested in just in the one place straight away. So if you want to know kind of the... Simon Singh's the perfect example, but you type Simon Singh into Skepticator now, and you're going to get comments from the Bad Astronomer, from us at the Skeptic Zone. You're going to find the young Australian skeptics, all the skeptical bloggers, the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, the Skeptic, all the skeptical blogs you can think of, and if you can think of one that's not on there, you can add it dead easy, and you can just get a digest kind of up to the minute stuff.
And what's even better, if you've got a particular interest area that you want to look at, say for instance you're interested in homeopathy, from the recent 1023 campaign, which was very successful in the UK, you can search for homeopathy on Skepticator and you can then subscribe to that search feed. So in your favourite RSS reader, which most of you should be using, really, RSS is very good, you can get Skepticator search results for homeopathy, and you'll get all of that keywords results straight into your favourite reader.
The other thing I think about, I've found awesome with Skepticator is it's fantastic for filling those 5-minute I'm bored moments when you're online and you're not sure where to go. Just bring up the homepage of Skepticator and you'll see the first dozen most recent skeptical blog posts from all the different blogs.
You get the very latest thing. Within 15 minutes, it's 5 minutes ago PZ Myers has put a blog post up about, the Pope. It's right there at the top of the Skepticator feed.
And it's great. It's so broad.
And my kids love it.
It's so broad in terms of its skeptical coverage that you're going to find topics and you're going to find websites that you're probably not familiar with unless you're a really hardcore encyclopedic skeptic. But also it is skeptical stuff. It's skeptical feeds. There's obviously a massive range of opinions and things going on within the skeptical community, but it's already pre-filtered for bullshit.
Indeed it is. Bullshit free.
Yeah,
unless you count my blog, which is on there as well.
If you is there going to be an option in future to filter out certain keywords like drunken madman singing?
There will indeed be an option to. What I'm going to try and do is allow the community to kind of, I'm going to crowdsource a quality kind of a thing and allow people to vote up or vote down different items within the feeds and different feeds. So if a particular feed becomes far less skeptical than it used to be, then we'll be able to filter that out on a community basis.
Yeah, so the old thumbs up, thumbs down thing.
Thumbs down, thumbs up, yeah.
If my Reiki healer tells me that my chakras are misaligned, will I be able to solve this problem on Skeptic?
Yeah, you'll just be able to type chakras into Skepticator, realise it's all bullshit, and ignore them.
Okay, thanks. I'm glad I chose
another victory for the Skepticator.
No, but seriously, it is kind of... it's a fantastic resource, both for the search power and just the 5 minutes I'm bored moments. It really does go through the crap. So and if you've got,
I've started writing the Skepticator, in fact, since I've started building it, I haven't had 5 minutes bored moments. It's been quite interesting.
Yeah, there's still a lot of work to go. I know you've got big plans for the future for it.
A lot of plans. Yeah.
It's definitely early days, but it's really worth a visit. And thanks a lot for giving us it. And good luck for the future, because it really is a wonderful resource. Check it out.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Well done, Jason. Yay!
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone, show 76 on the 2nd of April. Now check out this website, www.csicop.org, and you'll find a report by our very own Kylie Sturgis, the Token Skeptic, which is the, of course, the name of a very highly successful and relatively new podcast, the Token Skeptic. The Token Skeptic and the Rise of Atheism, Global Atheist Convention, Melbourne, Australia. You can read her take on this event. I recommend you do so, the Centre for Inquiry website. That's the report written by our very own Kylie Sturgis, and look at that, there's a picture of her standing next to Richard Dawkins. Good on you, Kylie. And thanks to everybody else who's been donating money to help us keep the show going. We love it. We love it so much. We love doing it, and thank you for your help. All right? So, until our next episode, it's goodbye from Richard Saunders.
You've been listening to The Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.
The Skeptic Zone.